Hello, everyone. This is Kevin, and welcome to the Cosmic Perspective. On today's episode, I speak with my friend Cory, and we talk all about fitness. He's a personal trainer, and he's a bit of a motivational person on Instagram as well. And we have an interesting conversation about kind of exercise, diet, and all sorts of things fitness related. And I think if you guys are into that, or if you want to know more about fitness, that this will definitely be an interesting episode for you. So without further ado, here's the podcast. Thank you, Cory, for coming on to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah. So, Cory, you're a big fitness person, and I feel like most fitness people have some sort of origin story. The thing that sparked them, that made them like, oh man, I need to work out or I need to get fit. What was your inspiration? What was the thing that got you to be a fitness junkie that you are now?
Yeah, so I don't think it was as much one thing as much as just a combination of growing up in a household in Columbus, Ohio, where people in my family were just really active. My mom was super into sports. My dad was just very encouraging in being active and being healthy. And, you know, starting at a young age, I was always playing sports, always outside, always doing something to physically exert myself. So whether it was like climbing trees or running around with my friends playing sports, it just started like elementary school. And ever since then, as I got older, it just kind of grew on me as I developed an interest in different sports and different activities. I just kind of was always shooting for more and more. And I think that's just kind of where it all started. And from there, like I said, it just kind of, as I discovered other things that I was passionate about, not just working out or, playing sports, just wellness in general, I just was really fascinated by how resilient the human body is. And if we treat it well, then we're going to function well.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like taking care of your body. You only get one body, and so you got to make sure that vessel that's carrying you, or that we are it. We got to make sure that it's healthy. So what are some ways that you have discovered work for you to maintain the most healthy body? So not necessarily the best workout strategies or anything, but just kind of like ways that you take care of yourself.
Yeah, for me, the biggest thing is coming up with a plan, or not a plan first. It's the goal. It's like, okay, what is my goal for? It could be a week. It could be just that day. It could be 6 months or a year, whatever that is. You come up with a goal, something that you tend to think about, like you want to be someone that inspires you, or something that you want to do, a race, or something you want to do in the weight room that you've never been able to do. Like that, you just get inspiration from people, and whatever that goal is, you do something every single day. You plan a roadmap. You do something every day that contributes to you getting to that goal, right? Like we're not going to accomplish that goal in a day, but when we do small things each day, it'll all add up. And that's what I didn't really learn until later. Like I always just wanted immediate results, and I never really got the fact that it's just takes something small every single day to really build up to the ultimate goal. And for me, a lot of my inspiration comes from athletes, from people who are like endurance racers, people who are doing Ironman races, and that just really makes me raise the bar. And that's what I do, and that's what I encourage everyone to do that.
Yeah. Okay. So you talk about different inspirations, and you pull it from athletes. Who are some people in particular that you got really inspired by in the fitness realm, and what were some habits or things that you picked up from them that made you feel like, you know what, I can do this. I just need to kind of steal these ideas or copy their methods?
So for me, it wasn't even really professional athletes at first that really inspired me. It was the people that I was exposed to every day growing up. So, it was friends that I had who were better at me than something, and the competitiveness came out of me, and I'm like, No, I don't want you to be better at it. I want to be better. I want to be better than you at this particular thing. So it started with people around me like that, and then it was like my coaches or teachers or people who were not just like friends of mine, but people who were also mentors, people who really saw me really consistently and saw me growing and really gave me that motivation and that desire to want to succeed. And that's what kind of drove me a lot. And then as I've gotten older and more and explored more of professional sports and like just not like watching it, but like American Ninja Warrior is like something that I'm really like pushing to do. I want to be an American Ninja Warrior. I love obstacle courses, and so there are plenty of contestants on that show that I'm like, he's a weatherman and he's able to do this course. Like, oh, she is a school teacher and she's able to be on this show. Like for me, I'm just an ordinary person just like them, and it's not about you just being born a certain way. It's you having work ethic and you really wanting something bad enough to put in the work more than the next person. And if you do that, then there's no reason why you can't be the best at what you do.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with you there. I guess, what was something that taught you the work ethic? Where was like an example specifically where you're like, okay, I had this thing happen to me, and because of this thing, I realized how important that hard work was, and I got this result. What was a good example of that?
I would say, so when I was younger, like I was never the biggest, strongest, quickest, tallest person. And that was really tough for me because a lot of my friends were bigger, stronger, faster, taller, and I was discouraged a lot because I had the drive in me to want to be the best. I had the desire to want to succeed, but I didn't have quite the tools yet that I needed to be what I wanted to be. And so not only did that motivate me, but as I went through school and I finally got through my senior year in high school, and I had been playing baseball and swimming, experimented with a lot of different sports. And the one thing that got me to where I am was the fact that I was willing to work harder than the people around me. I might not have been the fastest or the strongest, but since I was willing to put in that extra work to go to failure or to just go until I literally had nothing left, that's what I think made me so successful, and that's what helped me to be the person I am today. And like I said, by the senior year, I started to grow a little bit more. I was just a late bloomer, right? So like as I got into college, I started really being able to put on a little bit more muscle. I started to get a little bit taller. I started to just be able to exert myself more. Mm-hmm. And then after the 4 years in college playing intramural sports and really seeing a change in myself, moved here to Chicago and really decided to take it to the next level and really focus on not just my exercise, but nutrition and how I'm fueling my body, which has led to even more successes.
Okay, awesome. So I actually want to get into nutrition. I feel like nutrition and diet is like so important, and like some people work out just so that they can eat shitty. So what is something that you have learned about diet and about what fuels your body and ways that have improved your workout game and improved your overall ability to either gain muscle or just exercise in general?
I would say, like you're saying, one of the biggest things that people have a mindset of is like, I have to work out because then I can eat whatever I want. And it's, yeah, you can do that, but you're not going to get the maximum benefit of your workout and your time spent at the gym if you're not fueling your body the right way. And it's not that people don't necessarily want to fuel their body the right way. It's that they just don't know what their body needs, how to do it, and have that accountability to like stick with something, right? And for me, I didn't really discover that until about a year and a half ago, really like closely. I didn't really start paying attention to that really closely until about a year ago. Before that, like I grew up like not a picky eater. Like my parents were people who like, this is what we're having for dinner. If you don't, if that's not what you want, then I guess you're not eating, It's like, just, I appreciate that because I love so many kinds of food, healthy food, but all kinds of things. And so now, like I said, about a year ago, I started taking that a little bit more seriously and knowing, like, if I want to gain muscle, I need to be eating these kinds of food, eating more consistently, more meals throughout the day and that sort of thing, and just being more conscious of it and being consistent.
Okay. That makes sense. So then I guess the thing that I guess that leads me to is you were talking about eating several meals a day. There are so many different methods that I think people have depending on what they're trying to do. So something that I've tried has been intermittent fasting, and that's just like where you eat within the 8-hour window, and then you're supposed to fast for the remaining 12. And you're supposed to eat a good amount in that 8-hour window. Like I think some people might start that and then like not eat enough food. That's not the point of it. But the whole idea is that your body, when it's in the fasted state, is spending more time repairing. It's spending more time healing and regenerating. And then when you put food in, it's got to process and digest that, which means it's less time doing those other things, right? Because it's got to break down the food. So for somebody who's trying to lose weight, there have been a lot of studies that show that is helpful. For somebody who's trying to gain weight, I could see wanting to eat more is probably the right move. What have you seen in your experience as a personal trainer for people who have either one of those goals, and how has that particular suggestion worked? Because everybody's different.
Yeah. So for me, I've tried different methods. Like, trust me, like I was at a point where I was just skinny. I didn't feel confident in myself, where I was just trying anything. Like, I would eat as much food as I possibly could to see if I could gain weight. I would, try intermittent fasting a little bit to see if maybe just eating a ton at one point in time, and then and it didn't work for me necessarily, but that's not to say it doesn't work for other people, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's different. Everyone has a unique way of metabolizing and processing food. And, depending on, like you're saying, whether you're wanting to gain weight, maintain weight, lose weight, there are different methods, but it's really about sticking with something and giving it a shot 100% and seeing what the result is, right? For like a month, say, okay, I'm going to do this, but stick with it 100% for a month. Because if you say, well, I'm just going to give it a shot and just attempt to do this, right? If you say attempt, you're already accepting failure, right? Mm-hmm. So you might as well stick with something 100% and see where it goes. If it ends up working for you, that's awesome. Then let's keep going and stay consistent with it. But if not, then we can adjust that and we can kind of figure out a different way of going about getting your results. For me personally, I've found that eating consistently throughout the day, eating 5 or 6 times throughout the day has helped me, just because when I look at my numbers and I say, okay, I need however much protein. I want to balance my meals with, complex carbs, healthy fats, protein, veggies, all of that. It's really hard to have all of that in 1 or 2 meals, right? And so for me, and for what I coach people that have had a lot of success with that, is saying, okay, you're having your breakfast, you're having your mid-morning snack, your lunch, your mid-afternoon snack, your dinner, and then maybe a late evening snack, mm-hmm. right? And depending on if you're trying to lose weight, your calories are going to be a little bit different intake-wise than someone who's trying to gain weight, and we can adjust that. But the overall picture is making sure that you're getting the nutrients that you need, mm-hmm. and that you're refueling your body in a way that's going to help you maximize the benefits that you work in the gym, mm-hmm. and being active. So that's really my input to that concept of intermittent fasting. And I can't necessarily speak too much of that, just because that's not necessarily a method that I use, mm-hmm. all the time. Okay. Like, I'm familiar with it, but I mostly coach and help people with eating meals throughout the day. And
mm-hmm.
yeah.
So couldn't you, in theory, have 5 or 6 meals, but within that window? Like, couldn't you start out, maybe you eat a light breakfast, then if you work out in the morning, for example, you would work out, then you might have a larger kind of like brunch almost. Then you could have some sort of snack early afternoon. Then you could have a more solid meal after that. And then, like, do you see what I mean? Like, where you could almost kind of have, I think, the best of both worlds. But you might, instead of being the 8-hour window, you might have to push that to like 9 or 10. And from what I've read on the literature of like the effectiveness of intermittent fasting, is that it seems to be 8 is the most effective, but it's still effective up till about 10 hours. And then anything beyond that is like you're not really fasting long enough. So technically, I think, couldn't you be able to do that? Like, wouldn't you be able to eat several meals if you're just making sure that you're kind of like eating constantly within that window, and then after that you just cut it and you're like, all right, now I'm not eating until I start eating tomorrow?
Yeah, I think that it's definitely possible. I mean, anything's possible, really. Like, it really just depends on how confident in that you are that it's going to work. And like I said before, if you're going to do it 100% to see what the maximum benefits will be. But my goal for people, especially people who are trying to lose weight or tone up or lose body fat, is that the positive of eating consistently throughout the day and not waiting too much time between meals is that your metabolism starts to slow down when you're waiting so much time. And when that happens, you're storing fat, right? And we don't want to store fat. We want to build muscle, maintain muscle. And so when you're constantly fueling your body, then you're making sure that your body is burning the fat and you're fueling the muscle that you have, and you're making sure that you're balanced in your day with the nutrition. So that's what I've been sticking to, and that's how I've been able to feel my best, look my best, and be able to compete in the level that I want to. Not to say that any other method doesn't work, but it all just depends on your body type and what you're trying to, like, where you are right now and what your goals are. Depending on what those are, there's a way to get there, and it doesn't always have to be the same as the next person.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Other thing that I'm curious about your opinion on is the ketogenic diet. What is your opinion on it? Do you know what the ketogenic diet is?
Sort of. I'm not 100%.
Okay, I could give you like a summary
exposed to it, but yeah.
So basically, what the ketogenic diet is that your body can be in a state of ketosis, and the way that ketosis works is that it's using ketones as its fuel source instead of like carbohydrates. So essentially, you barely eat carbs. You eat protein, but not even too much protein, and it's primarily you're eating fat. And that means your body is eating fat and then using fat as fuel instead of the carbs. And so your body actually switches to using ketones instead of glucose, I want to say, is what it's switching. And it's actually a whole different shift in your body that you have to do. And it takes a little bit to adjust there. And then there are tests you can take to see if you're in a state of ketosis. This is something that like Joe Rogan talks about all the time. This is how I learned about it. I was listening to his podcast, so shout out to Joe Rogan. But it a really fascinating thing for me. I can't fully go into that yet because I just like I like certain carbs and I got a sweet tooth. But my roommate Joey, he does like he's full keto, man. Like he pretty much only survives on fats, and he's in great shape. Like honestly, you wouldn't know that he eats like bacon and like all these things that you think are bad for you, that because the way his body's running is running on fats, that it's not doing the same thing to somebody that maybe is then eating carbs and that. Okay, well then that's bad. But
Yeah.
Since he almost eats no carbs, he's basing almost all of it off of the fat. So knowing that information, is that an interesting thing to you? Like, is that something that you would look into at some point?
It's very interesting. I would say that for me personally, it would be very hard for me to maintain long term because like you're saying, like there are carbs that I really enjoy eating. Like for me, it's about having a lifestyle that's healthy, but also not depriving yourself of things that you enjoy.
Yeah,
because then what's the point? Like if you're not happy and you're just like getting up every morning like, oh man, I gotta do this. I gotta eat. I can't eat these things. I have to eat these. It's like, for me, it's about finding a balance of what is healthy, preparing it, and making recipes that you enjoy that are healthy. And then that is what promotes consistency, sticking with it, and then seeing results, right? Don't get me wrong, I love fats too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, when they think of, oh, like a diet on fats, they automatically think of like, fried foods and, like you said, like bacon and all these really like usually unhealthy fat. And I think that there would need to obviously be some direction on like, okay, well, like you're not just eating like pancakes and fried chicken and all these things all the time, because even though your body might run on it, like there's still aspects of those foods that are still not good for you. Like the fact is that like a lot of unhealthy fat's gonna lead to clogged arteries and things like that. Especially if you have a history in it. Like for me, like my dad had a 6-way bypass surgery, heart surgery. So that was a big point for me to say like, this is in my genetics. Like I need to take care of my body the best way I can, that I have control over, so that I can help myself as best I can, and to like avoid having these kinds of complications down the road. But yeah, I think that is a very interesting concept. And I would be willing to try it. And, but yeah, I don't know. I do like carbs, and I do like having like complex carbs, right? Like there is a difference between having a lot of white bread and white rice and, processed carbs, and then complex carbs like sweet potatoes and brown rice and quinoa and all these things that really do like give you energy throughout your day. And so
there's definitely a difference. There's levels to this shit.
There's
some stuff
really
that's
is
good for you, and there's some stuff that's not. And although they're in the same family, they're siblings are different, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's what we educate people on. I educate people on what works for me, and I have them try it out. And 99% of the time, they experience a lot of success with it. The other 1%, they either just don't want to stick with it, or they find, another avenue that they discover, and that's great.
And it works for them. Okay. So tell me a little bit about one of your biggest success stories of somebody who came to you, for personal training, right? Came to you, was in need of some fitness realignment, so to speak. And what were you able to do to change their fitness composition and what their goals were, and kind of get them in line for somebody who maybe wasn't motivated?
Man, that's a hard question, because there are so many. It's just each person that I help has their own unique story and their own unique background. Some clients that I have, some people that I have helped, I didn't know before I started helping them. Like I had no communication with them at all. And then we became friends and learned about their goals, and then we worked on it. Some of my clients and friends that I work with, I've known my whole life. And so I would say I'll stick with an example of someone that I grew up with. Her name's Courtney, and she is on track to, she's already made so many changes and is doing an amazing job with her, like just working on herself and being confident, being healthier. But it really started back in July of 2017. She reached out to me, and she's like, Cory, I see all your posts. I see what you're doing. I see that you're so involved with community. I see that you're genuinely like interested in helping people. And, it's not just about the fitness, it's about the nutrition, right? And I need help on getting on track with my nutrition. It's the building blocks of everything else that follows. And, we sat down for brunch. We talked about where she is, where she wants to go, and what her goals are. And since that point, she's dropped body fat, she's dropped some weight, she's put on muscle, and she is a totally different person since July of 2017. And it's not even just about the physical results. Like, she is so much more confident. She is just a bubbly person, and she's so much more outgoing. And whereas before, she was just not. Like, she was just kind of reserved, and you could tell that there was something that was inside her that needed to get out. Just didn't have that opportunity.
Something was holding her back.
Yeah.
And maybe part of it is self-esteem stuff. Maybe part of it genuinely is because, like, when you go to the gym and you exercise, you feel good. You're releasing feel-good chemicals. When you do that, you feel better about yourself. So maybe it's a combination of them, but I think regardless, your impact was the catalyst needed. I think one of the jobs as a personal trainer, just from my perspective, as somebody who's not one, is to give somebody that intrinsic motivation to proceed themselves, to give them that confidence that, like, listen, man, I know you don't consider yourself a fitness person, but you can be. You just have to teach yourself that motivation. So what have you found has helped you break through most to people of, like, they think of themselves not as fitness people, that they don't, I don't know, I the reason why I pay you is so that you can make me work hard. Like, how do you get people out of that cycle, right? I deal with that in technology. Like, oh, I don't know anything about computers. You just do it. Like, so how do you do that?
Well, first of all, I go by the statement of unleash your inner athlete. Like, find your inner athlete. Everyone has deep down a part of you that has the capability and the potential to be athletic, or at least the desire to be athletic in some way, shape, or form, right? And so the key is just tapping into that. And for people, like you're saying, who are, like, just not, like, they don't admit that it's for them, or that it's just, I can't do it because I'm just not motivated, or it's not, like, my body type, I just can't lose fat, or my body type, I just can't gain muscle. It's possible, because I've seen people do it, and I've done it myself, and that's what gets people, is when you share these stories with them and you show them, like, real life evidence that this picture over here, this is a picture of someone who started where you are, right? And this is them 6 months or a year later, and they're a totally different person. Like, when they see that, they can relate to it, and it gives them that understanding of, like, wow, like, I guess it really is a mindset thing. It's not your body, it's your mindset. And once you transfer that, like, you have to change your mind to change your body,
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just, everyone has that in them to change. It's just the mindset and how badly they want it.
Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of it comes from fear, right? People are scared to push themselves to that next level. And people are definitely scared to think, man, this whole time I wasn't working on this and I could have been. Like, that's a scary thought, to feel like they've been wasting time when they could have had this the whole time.
Right.
And so I think part of it is, like, them just trying to overcome that barrier.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I tell people is, okay, this person you see on Instagram might be in great shape and, like, low body fat and, like, really lean and just doing all these things that you might be thinking, wow, like, I could never do that. Well, it's like, yeah, right now maybe not, but they're on chapter 10 or 15 of their book of fitness. You're on chapter 1, right? You're starting here. It's not about what you haven't done in the past, not about what you didn't do. It's about what you're going to start doing now, so that by the time you get to chapter 10 or whatever, however long it takes you, you can do the things that that person inspired you to do, right? If that's genuinely what you want to do and that's how you want to feel and be, there's no reason why you can't get there. They just started a little bit earlier. It doesn't mean that you can't ever experience that same thing.
Yeah, everybody has their own path. And when we compare ourselves to other people, we're getting ourselves into a lot of trouble, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because you don't realize what they went through to get to that point, and you don't understand the struggles that might have allowed them to realize something sooner than you. And that doesn't mean that they're more valid or that they have something better than you just because they figured out a certain thing before you. Because there's going to be things that you figured out that those people haven't figured out in their lives yet. Maybe they have the fitness thing down, but you got the mental thing down and something else,
Yeah, you find out what's unique about yourself. You find out what makes you stick out, what makes you different, and maybe that's what you can hone in on. Like maybe there's a part of your body that you just really love to work out in the gym, or like maybe you have a skill in cooking and you're really good at creating healthy food, or whatever that skill is, or whatever that thing is that you feel makes you different. Like people are going to see that, and it's going to really resonate with people, and you're going to inspire people just as they inspire you.
100%, man. I fucking love that a lot. So another thing that I want to talk about with you is that, just to loosely tie it in here, because it's related to your discipline, is that you're actually classically trained in music.
Yeah.
And what ways have you tied in the training and what you learned in music to fitness, and vice versa?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there's a lot of ways to approach this. I would say first and foremost, my dedication to music and the way I practiced music and was taught to practice music has translated to fitness in the way that, I always was taught, practice makes perfect, or
Mm-hmm.
like put in 10,000 hours and you'll be the master of your art, And, although we're always evolving and we should never be to a point where we're like, okay, we're done. Like we're always evolving, we're always getting better and progressing. And with music, I just felt like I was constantly getting better because I practiced every day, and I practiced smart. You practice things that you're not good at so that you can make those things improved, so that you can be better at them, right? And be more well-rounded in that art and whatever you're doing. So I transferred that to fitness in the way of, okay, I guess, my legs don't seem as big or, as strong as I want them to be. So that's what I'll focus on in the gym, and make sure that I'm doing something every single day to perfect that art as best I can. Not that I'm ever going to be perfect, but to strive for perfection, so that you can at least say that you're giving it everything you can. And so that's kind of, I guess, the mentality that I've had with not even just music and fitness, but in general, with just education and my background.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately what it comes down to, what you're describing, is something that I've heard described as like the language of success. And it's something that I know I think about a lot lately, is just, if you're constantly thinking in that mentality, the language of success. I know I've heard Logic say like, I can, I will, I'm going to, versus I can't, I won't, I will not.
Right.
Kind of changing that language and what you're doing, then applying it to almost everything you're doing. So in fitness, saying, oh, I can't get a six pack, I can't do that. Well, yeah, fuck, with that attitude, no, you're not, but
Right.
But if you're going to say, I will, it might not be for 6 months or a year, or set yourself a realistic timeline. But if you say you will eventually, then you're at least leaving yourself the opportunity and the door open that you're going to go do it.
Right.
So how did you get that language? How did you, because most people don't, I would say most people don't start out with that, right? It's something you learn through some sort of gratifying experience that shows you. It's very much a lesson that is learned through action. So what were some early actions in your life that maybe triggered that?
I have just always grown up in a household where I was taught to be optimistic and just positive and just thinking the glass is half full rather than half empty, that sort of mentality. Because my dad, one of the greatest quotes that he always told me was, don't worry about the things you don't have any control over, or else you're going to go crazy, And so I apply that to being positive, because if I look at a situation where, I feel discouraged or something, I think of it like, well, you know what? If I just sit here and worry about it and feel sorry for myself and dwell on the negatives of the situation, it's not going to do any good. It's not going to allow me to move forward, you know? So I might as well just see the good in everything rather than the bad. There are times where it's important to see the bad because you can reflect on it and make yourself better. But there are times where it's just important to know, okay, that happened, or this is an unfortunate situation, but I need to move forward. I need to see the positives. And if I want to accomplish this goal, it's going to take consistent effort and work. But yeah, I guess that's kind of my response to that is you just have to you have to at least try to see everything in a positive way as best you can to create the small successes that make you want to experience more success and then more success, rather than having failure and then saying, well, I failed, so I just can't do it, and then never trying anymore.
Yeah. Failure's a lesson that takes you closer to success.
Exactly.
A failure's a step in the direction of success with the right perspective.
Especially in the fitness world, because in order to see what you're truly capable of, you have to push yourself to failure, right? If you stop before you've completely maxed out and like done everything you can, you don't truly know what you're capable of. You could have put in a few more reps. You could have run for a few more seconds or a minute. Like you could have done something to deplete the tank a little bit more. And if we can do that, not even just in fitness, but like in everyday life, if we just give everything we have, we're going to be better at what we do. If we listen to people better and like best we can, we'll be better people. Like we'll be able to just accomplish more.
I mean, listening to people and actually listening to them,
right?
You know, not just waiting for a response, like listening and being like, okay, I hear you, and this is what I have to say for that, you know, and being able to engage with somebody in a meaningful way where you're really connecting with them. And we're so connected in this world, but yet at the same time we're not really connecting on that deep level. And that's the part that I can see that through your fitness, that's your way that you're connecting, or through music too. Those are the ways that you connect with people the most. And it's cool. It's cool to see that, like, when people are doing their thing, that's when people tend to see it, because it's like that human element that they're seeing of like, oh man, that could be me, even though I feel like this person's up here. You know?
It's ultimately, for me, my goal is to create a happier and healthier life for everyone, right? For people I come in contact with, from people all over the world, right? In order to do that, a big part of the reason like so much of the world is at odds with itself and like violent and just not seeing eye to eye on so many things is because part of it is just not being happy with who we are, and not being happy has a lot to do with how we're feeling and our health and our fitness, right? And you know, I feel like if we can help people to be healthier, it will help people to be happier. And if you have room for happiness and that fills you, there's no need for hate. Like there's no need to have any negative feelings anymore, because you have things that you need right there. And that's the mentality I have, and the more people I can impact with that, and I think that great things can happen.
Yeah, you're trying to create a ripple, man. I mean, ultimately, it's all a domino effect. So the more that you can touch somebody, the more that they can touch somebody who touches somebody who touches somebody. It's like the greatest form of a pyramid scheme, like we were talking about before. Is like just that's what you would want to see ideally in the best case scenario of a pyramid scheme is one that actually is creating positive ripples rather than, you know, bankrupting people.
Exactly. Oh, for sure.
All right, awesome, man. Well, I feel like that's a good spot to end it there. Cory, it's been great having you on. Next time I have you on, I definitely want to talk about music, and we'll dive into that aspect of your personality. But yeah, it was a pleasure.
That sounds great. Thanks for having me, Kevin.
All right. Thank you. Bye.